Matt, how's your week going?
Good, guys. I haven't been able to listen today yet, but heard bits and pieces throughout the week. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a fun week. We're doing okay. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I want to lead with, we just had Coach Autry on, and how shocked are you that it was kind of, we asked if we were going to,
I said, will we see Donnie Freeman at some point during the regular season? And he didn't really. He just said
it's day to day.
It's day to day. We don't really know where he is.
Are you shocked by that?
Not shocked, but I would. Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I not that I have any great knowledge of his injury. I mean, who has, unless you've seen the MRI and stuff, nobody knows what anyone else is dealing with. My reaction is, this is all unfortunate, right? I mean, there's so many. This team hasn't gotten a lot of good breaks, and they certainly, while they can't really afford bad breaks, have had a couple significant ones. With Starling being out for 7 games, and Donnie, look through the weekend, that's at least 4 right there, and who knows how many more. And if it's the whole season, then that's obviously a really big deal. The whole rest of the season. I want to hear Red say it for myself, and I have come into your show late, so I didn't catch it. I'd like to hear it in context and hear his reaction, and then obviously we can talk to him about it tonight. But I think this is hard on Red. I think it's hard. I think communicating with today's players is difficult for anybody of any age, and kind of getting a true sense, and then in Red's case, articulating what he thinks is the right thing to say publicly. He wants to answer your question honestly and earnestly. He doesn't want to misstep or offend anybody or put undue pressure on Donnie or say the wrong thing. So I think his words are very measured, and I think it's hard to get straight answers sometimes, and that's difficult for all concerned.
What about, we've fielded several questions the last few days, and there's been, one comment that kind of stuck with me today that said, what was the comment, Paulie? It's a dead season, or the season?
Yeah, the
season is dead. How would you respond to that? When somebody offers that up and says, that the season is dead, what's your response?
Well, we're all sports fans, right? I mean, you have good ones and bad, and around here there's been a lot of good. Of late, there's been some sketchy seasons, and this one's a difficult season. That's it. There'll be another season. There'll be a lot more seasons. And I try to choose my words carefully because I don't want to insult anybody or think that anybody's doing backflips over a season where they're not likely to make the tournament and all that. It's not fun or exciting for anyone right now, and you hope for it going ahead. But if you're a fan of the team, you'll be back. You're in on it. You'll be ready for the next chapter. If your only definition of the season is cutting the nets down and all of that, if that's all you're in it for, then I don't know why you really paid attention to much of anything outside of March, and of late there haven't been any Marches. So it comes down, I'm fascinated by what is people's consumption of the product. What are you in it for? Why do you come to the game or not come to the game? Are you a fan or are you a supporter? NIL, is that something you're involved in, or is that somebody else's problem? Do you take to social media and call talk radio? Is that representative of the overall fan base? I don't know. Those are all, I think this year in particular,
I hope not.
There's just so many, there's just more questions than answers. People want to say it's a lost season. Okay, well, what does that mean?
Well, let me put it in context for you.
They're still not firing the coach.
Let me put it in context for you why it came up as it's a dead season. Choa Moore should just get 40 minutes now because it's a dead season.
Okay, so that at least provides context to the point. I don't believe in that necessarily. Let's see if you get later in the year and there's really, truly nothing to play for, whatever. You got to put out the best team you have every game. I will raise my hand and say in the case of Moore, I was not terribly surprised that he came out when he did, a little surprised, I guess, but that he didn't come back in until he may as well not have with 90 seconds to go. That to me was a bummer. I thought that was a missed opportunity on Tuesday night to get Moore some time after the game was already decided. Do I think he needs to play more for them to be better or all that? No, not necessarily. I don't think he would have turned the game around. But I think he's at the point where he's just not that far off. I think he could use a little confidence boost. He at least could use some real game time against a good opponent. Once the game's decided, as it was early in the second half on Tuesday, it's a low-pressure environment. So get out there and go. And again, even Red, he didn't get any good breaks. He puts him at the scores table, I think, with 2:30 or more to go. And you could tell right then there's not going to be even a meaningful possession left this game because Louisville's draining the clock, and then they were going to all walk-ons for the final 90 seconds. So it just didn't work, So I think my thing, when people quibbling about Red and his coaching, I think there are a bunch of legitimate little things you could go at here or there. I just think some of the other theories that are thrown out there are just laughable. I mean, about the assistant coaches or what they wear for warm-ups. I mean, come on with that.
Let me ask you this. I have recently become very frustrated with the people that call this show, and it's already coming. It just came up in one of your responses. We already know Carlos doesn't make them better. We have to see what Moore has, I think, is the point. Moore isn't losing time to Carlos, though, right? Cuff is the one who's gotten the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, Moore is right now, he's a shooter, scorer, freshman in development. He's not somebody you're giving the ball to run the team. That's what you do with Carlos and Starling, who are veteran players. And Kyle Cuff, who's a little more veteran, that doesn't have quite the game experience, he's not really a ball handler, facilitator type either. But you need to have somebody that's going to do that on the floor. So the time to get Moore in there, to me, is at least what you're worried about now and how does he fit on this team. Let's see if he can go in and be an effective shooter and slasher. And right now he needs a confidence boost. He needs to see the ball go through the rim. And he's not going to do that from the bench. So I would have gotten him, my personal preference in the last game. Again, I don't really hesitate that much about him coming out. But when he was brought out after he had at least two good looks that were right there and spit out. So I don't know, if it was a predetermined sub or whatever. I'm not really quibbling with the original coming out of the game. But to have never gone back in or to have gone back in as late as he did, I thought was a miss. But we're talking about a matter of 4 or 5 minutes that just would have been for the development of Elijah going forward and maybe make him better, or at least have a better mindset going into this weekend's game against Notre Dame. It wouldn't have changed the outcome against Louisville.
We saw against Louisville that they did a great job limiting J.J. Starling, held him to 4 points. He only got 7 shots, hounded him wherever he went. I think the concern is moving forward that, if other teams do that, who else is going to step up? Donnie's still out. If you take J.J. out of the game, do they have enough firepower to score and stay with teams? In your mind, what has to happen if a team says, all right, J.J.'s not beating us today? Where do they go? Where do the points come from on this team?
Well, Louisville wasn't the first team to think that or know that.
Right.
Anybody looking at this team understands that Starling is far and away the best option offensively. So, BC knew that too. How did it work out for them?
Sure.
So he dropped 26 on them. So not everybody's going to actually be able to do it. I think you got to tip your cap to Chucky Hepburn, who's certainly an all-conference caliber player, if not all-American, and had a heck of a game that night, and JJ did not. And so I think, that's, at least in this round of the battle, it clearly goes to Hepburn, and maybe there's another game where Starling holds his own or better. Going forward, though, yeah, sure, you need to develop additional options. I think we all easy target there to throw it to Chris Bell. You can't have multiple people, if they're going to win, if they're going to beat good teams, you got to have a lot of people step up and perform. You can't have multiple no-shows and that kind of thing. And if Freeman's unavailable, if Moore's not giving you anything, late, Taylor's been a pretty good contributor. Tuesday against Louisville, he wasn't. You can't have that and be competitive against good teams. Guys disappearing. Jair Davis didn't score in the second half the other night, right? So they're just not good enough they have no margin for error. They need to play close to their best on a regular basis, certainly to beat the best of teams.
Let me ask you this. You say they have no margin for error. What has caused Syracuse University's basketball team to get to a point where their roster is there is no margin for error?
Well, I think a lot of things. I mean, I think you had to in essence, start from close to scratch to put this team together with the number of vacancies off of last year's team, which, I don't think anybody was really, with the exception probably of Malik Brown, I don't think anybody was grabbing at ankles like getting that group to stay off of last year. I think that group of, now they would be juniors, I think we could all say was not, did not perform to the level that maybe they were brought in as some sort of star recruiting class. They did not turn out to be that. So now you've got holes to fill. And when they went out to fill the holes, the guys they've brought in have been okay, but not star players. And in this league, you need more. The teams you're playing have better than that, and certainly the most recent one, the one you're looking at is Louisville. Louisville went out and got a great roster. They started from scratch. They did some awesome stuff. They've got a lot to sell and great attributes in their program. They have a coach with a ton of energy and know-how, and he hit. It doesn't mean that Red can't hit. He just didn't this first time. And Louisville has more resources to create a little more margin for error and bring in the higher-end players like Chucky Hepburn, et cetera. So, I don't know if that's one thing. Can we talk? I'm ready to go down there any more of the list you have. The one that popped up the other day is about assistant coaches. Mm-hmm. I think maybe it was on a post-game show. Oh, it's Dan Engelstadt's fault. I don't know, and I always feel like, hey, part of my job is to try to help fans and the listeners and consumers understand what's going on. I don't know what a fan would know about what the assistants do or don't do, and on what grounds you would finger an assistant coach like he's the problem and that one's got to go.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And I think you could put it on you want to discuss with the head coach, hey, how do you work and implement with your assistants? But the one thing I would say on behalf of just my observation of watching the personnel here, look, first of all, nobody wants to win more than these guys. And the results that you see, is the sum total of everything. It's not due to a lack of effort or knowledge or know-how or having the right people in the right place. I sit behind Alex Klein, the general manager, on the plane. All he does watch over and over and over of every league imaginable, anticipating who may be in the transfer portal and who they may be able to bring in their price range. Eugene, the analytics guy, is over and over and over watching basketball and charting what are the best and most efficient ways to play. People think Red has no offense or no sets. When he has that paper that's in his pocket, I've looked at it. It's not cartoons. It's play after play after play after play. When you go to practice, they don't just sit there. They work on every set and possible thing that the other team can do. Now, is it implemented perfectly or the best way or absorbed the best way or executed the best way? That's the issue. That's what's coming up short. It's not coaching malpractice. It's not incompetence. He didn't forget basketball. So I think everybody's got to kind of understand what they're looking at here. Take a breath, and everybody wants the team to be good and to perform at a maximum. And it takes a lot of people, pulling in the right direction for it to work out that way.
I got one more question for you. Over, big picture NIL wise with Syracuse. Is Syracuse capable of getting those players that you said in the price range? Like, is Syracuse in a price range where they're ever going to be able to get a guy like a Hepburn or like that, or is it going to be an uphill battle every year?
Yeah, I wouldn't say never. I would say this is not the type of institution that's going to get into a top of the end, top of the line bidding war for somebody. I don't really see that happen. Knock on wood, there are $3 million quarterbacks out there, apparently. I don't see Syracuse having a $3 million quarterback. I don't see Syracuse paying well into six figures to players that ride the bench. So they're not going to be at the top, right? Ohio State reportedly had a $20 million payroll for football this year, and Alabama and some other schools at that level. Syracuse is not going to be at that level. Can they compete? Yes. The way they compete, though, is to be shrewder, be more efficient, to not miss. So the player that you do get for whatever that number is, and everybody can make it up. Is it 150? Is it 750? Is it 400? Anywhere in between. When you do spend that money, that's got to be for your top players, and they've got to perform at a top level in order for you to have the roster right. And you've got to hit on the freshmen and develop them. If you look, freshmen, I'm with those that are excited about next year's recruiting class, right? But they're still going to come in and be freshmen. Okay, there aren't a lot of freshmen either for or against Syracuse that are out there dominating. Okay, Cooper Flagg is a tremendous outlier. The guys who are doing things are the juniors, seniors, grad transfers. Chucky Hepburn has started 115 games in college. And so when you do pay for him, you do acquire him as a free agent. Again, just to take it from a Louisville perspective for a moment, you have a pretty good sense of what you're getting, and he's performed at a high level. And obviously, it's all fresh in our minds that he dominated on Tuesday night, and he beat JJ head to head, but he's not outscoring him for the year, and things like that. So take the good with the bad. It's a year that I think is a head scratcher and a struggle for all concerned, and inside and out of the building and all of that. And I think everybody's support and fan reaction, whatever that may be, is people are entitled to do what they want to do, and you look to get better and put on a better product for everybody going forward.
Let me ask you one more, Matt. Sorry to keep you this long, but
I got nowhere to be.
This is I've been critical of Syracuse University for one thing, and that's explaining what NIL is to fans. And Michael Antonio in our chat is responding to what you just said. Matt, that is unacceptable. Syracuse needs to compete with top dollars of other schools. Why is that, and why can they, and why can't they if they can't?
Well, I love when people throw out the phrase unacceptable or this or that is guaranteed. Unacceptable against what? Unacceptable for whom and by what standard? So what's he saying? He's saying Syracuse has to pay what Ohio State pays? They don't have the money that Ohio State has to earmark for that. It's just not that way, and it's not going to be that way. Ohio State is not like Syracuse University. They have 50, 60,000 undergrad students. That's not what this school is, okay, that has a quarter of that. So they're different types of institutions. It doesn't mean they can't compete head-to-head, and once in a while, and Syracuse win its fair share, and the Orange have over time. But they're not on the same playing field when it comes to some of those types of resources. So I don't know if that's when you say unacceptable, what do you mean? I mean, if you think about how these NIL are built, the larger your school and the larger the fan following and the larger the, I hesitate to say passion because everybody's passionate here and elsewhere, but the more you incentivize it, that's what explains what your payroll opportunities are, okay, what your pool of money is, and then it's up to the coaches and general managers and these collectives and business communities to make the deals that acquire and retain the players. So Syracuse might not have as big a checkbook to write, to bring in these people in the first place, but might be better at scouting, talent evaluation, development, retention, that type of thing. You have a better degree to offer than other places maybe. So whatever the selling points are of these individual schools, that's what you lean on. It's not strictly NIL, but to deny that NIL and payroll and those types of assets are a major factor is just ignorant right now.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. I'll see you tonight at Carrabba's for the Coach Autry Show.
Is that it? I mean, I got time.
No, I want to go home. I need a break.
We all need a break,
I need
Matt.
a break between this and...
just the whole idea, that's unacceptable. What do you mean it's unacceptable? One of your famous callers the other day, I don't care about Syracuse's P&L. Well, you know who does? The university does. That's like, that'd be like me walking into Morton's and say, I don't care what your P&L is. I want to buy the best filet you have for $12. It's just not the way it works.
And by the way, Matt, the size of the schools is a stupid excuse. Just wanted to let you know that's what the chat says.
Rice and Vanderbilt should be beating Ohio State and Georgia.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know.
You ever wonder why those schools aren't competitive?
There is a good question, and maybe I don't know if you have the answer to this, Matt. Why is Duke high?
because their alumni give money. They incentivize having those types of players and put money toward it. They raise more money.
Okay.
They also, it's a rich get richer type enterprise. When you've been to as many Final Fours as some of these programs have, and you like it more, you put more money into the pot, you have more money to spend on players, you get better players, you get more wins. That's the cycle. One of them. I mean, that's a tough one to answer in a short time frame.
Duke's a national brand, basically, like Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, that's one factor.
Yeah. I didn't.
Blue blood, Paulie. Blue blood.
I didn't think that. All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right, Matt.
All right.
Thanks for coming on. All right.
Yeah, have
You
fun,
as well.
everybody.
All right, Matt Park joining us on the show. And with that, we'll hit our final time.